Greetings and salutations, fellow humans. Today is the 2nd of August, 2025, and I am Thaddeus Satori. Today I would like to share with you some thoughts on how I believe that political leaders and parties can begin to regain the trust of us peasants and begin taking humanity in the right direction. This will require leaders who are more interested in doing the right thing rather than in their own personal gain, but those people do exist. We have a few in Congress, but mostly they've been pushed out of the game. I would like to help them get back in. Let me begin with a quote attributed to Lao Tzu around 2600 years ago. Quote, "If you continue on the same path or in the same way, you will likely reach the destination that path leads to." End quote. A more recent quote in the same vein is attributed to Albert Einstein, and that is, quote, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results." End quote. It is my belief that we are on the wrong path and that the people in charge are too lacking in awareness, selflessness, or ability to make the changes necessary in order to avoid our collective destination. They are locked in an insane game that seems to have no basis in reality and could ultimately get us all killed. Consider for a moment leaders who openly flirt with the idea of using nuclear weapons and destroying virtually all life on this planet, including their own. Sheer insanity. Fortunately, much of the world still has functioning democracies, which can enable us peasants to influence the systemic changes needed to get us off this path. But we will have to put aside our differences, make compromises, and work together to do so. We can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Several years ago, I was asked by a family member, "What do you think is the main difference between the Republicans and the Democrats?" After pondering a moment, I replied, "I think the Democrats are a bit nicer to the peasants." He considered my answer and said, "Yeah, I would agree with that. But whether you agree or not, I think it is easy to see that both parties in the U.S., to greater or lesser degrees, have become captive to a system that has gradually and methodically been established to benefit the few at the top at the expense of the rest of us. Just look at the transfer of wealth that has taken place over the past 4 or 5 decades, even more so in recent times. Inspired by greed and arrogance, and executed through mythologies and programming, they have systematically weakened social cohesion and safety nets, and have dismantled the carefully constructed guardrails that protect us against our worst inclinations. But at this crossroads, we need to leave the how and why to future historians and focus all our efforts on the here and now. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, right? Waste of time and energy. It's not like we have a time machine to go back and fix anything. So let's try to move forward from the present. I have put together a platform from my own perspective on how to proceed. Since it is a bit long for one sitting, I will break it down into more digestible bits. Any and all parts are completely free to any politician or political party anywhere in the world. I am sure that I have overlooked things and that each of you will have different views and priorities, but after all, we are just humans. Anyway, let's get started. So here's my advice. Step 1. Use psychology and educate the masses. Put together a team of psychologists, neurologists, nurses, teachers, social workers, emergency workers, military leaders, community leaders, and other behavioral experts to advise you on how to motivate people into following you. Then add to your team advertisers, marketers, podcasters, clergy, and other manipulators to sell your ideas. Run ad campaigns, create slogans and memes. Let the peasants know what you want to do and how it will benefit them in their daily lives. Keep it simple and repeat it. There were people in the last election who voted without knowing that Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act were one and the same, or that their state's health care program, under a different name, was actually mostly Medicare and Medicaid. Nobody bothered to explain either to them. What was that Build Back Better bill anyway? How did it affect my daily life? My kids' future? For God's sake, spell it out and sell it. Step 2. Convince people of the need for democracy, government, and taxes. In a true democracy, one, of the people, by the people, and for the people, government is the only tool available to us peasants to stand up against rampant selfishness, greed, ego, and corruption. Other humans. We need to establish systems that guard against our darker side, and these systems can only come from government. Do you really trust others to just do the right thing? Explain that government agencies provide forewarnings of hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods, and coordinate rescue, recovery, cleanup, and rebuilding after such devastating events. Government ensures bank savings, builds roads and bridges that carry food and goods to supermarkets and stores, infrastructure that enables you to drive to work and get around town. It builds airports and seaports and rail systems that carry food to market. It builds water and sewage systems that allow you to take care of your bodily functions inside a warm house in the dead of a cold winter's night. Government organizes and runs schools to educate and care for your children while you go to work. It invests in the common good where businesses won't because it isn't profitable. It's not their deal. And some things that we want as a society simply shouldn't be for profit anyway. Can you think of any? When government is working properly, it cares for veterans, the poor, the elderly, the needy, and the mentally ill, like Jesus. It provides police and all the road signs and stoplights from sea to shining sea. It arrests, prosecutes, and imprisons those who are a danger to others. Society. Of course, all these things cost money, and that is why we need taxes to pay for them. But tax day shouldn't be viewed as a day of mourning or scorn. It should be a day of celebration. It should be seen as the day that we pool our money to do great things for our communities, things we can't do as individuals. I once spoke to a Danish man, and he said that he didn't mind paying high taxes because of all the things he got in return. He didn't have to worry about health care or taking care of aging parents on his own. He didn't have to worry about spending a fortune on higher education for his kids. He didn't have to spend a fortune getting around because of the efficient public transportation system. He didn't have to worry about excessive crime or navigate homeless people sleeping in the streets. These are more of the things our taxes should provide. Sure, we would need to pay more taxes in the U.S., but, as Benjamin Franklin once said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Do the math. Though the contest between the haves and the have-nots has been going on for millennia, a lot of protections for the peasants were put into place in the early 20th century. Unfortunately, these have been slowly eroded. Ronald Reagan, over 40 years ago, at the behest of the ruling class, began the systemic dismantling of the U.S. federal government and organized labor. He convinced the peasants that government was the problem and not the solution, and shifted the blame for failure onto the individual as opposed to an inherently flawed system, programming. Every president since, of both parties, has been complicit to greater or lesser degrees. Even Bill Clinton signed off on the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933, a law that separated investment banks from savings banks. He gave Wall Street the go-ahead to gamble with people's savings. Obama bailed out the banks instead of homeowners. In the U.S., we have one party with two factions, and they are both working against us. I truly hope that we are now in the final stage on that long and painful journey, and I have the feeling that the current administration in D.C. is going to show us all what it is really like to have to survive without a functioning federal government. All those things that we, for so long, took for granted are becoming very visible. Community. One of the few things I remember from my high school physics class is, the simpler the machine, the less likely it is to break down. I would include in this language, and would, therefore, eliminate legalese or legal speak. As a reasonably well-educated person, there is no reason I should have to read the same paragraph 3 times in order to figure out what the hell it's trying to say. As a former English teacher, I would give the author an F and tell that person to rewrite the damn thing. The whole point of language is to communicate, and if almost no one can understand what you are trying to say, you have failed miserably. If it were up to me, I would have laws written in simple language in 3 columns labeled can, can't, and objective. Then, for example, if one part, say Part 6D, isn't working as intended or creates unanticipated problems, legislators can simply eliminate it and come up with a better solution without starting from scratch. Simplify the machine and work out the bugs. I think that's enough for now, so I'm going to stop here. Next time, I want to share some thoughts on specific issues related to fixing our broken system. In the meantime, take care of yourself and those around you. Begin to organize locally. Check out the channel Belle of the Ranch for practical ways to prepare for life's catastrophes. Thanks for listening. Cheers.